So we get asked this a lot. Why did we start this? Why another community for women?
Right. And the honest answer is we didn't set out to build a community. We are just two type A women who were told we needed balance.
And we got a little tired about it. So this whole thing started with a text message about calendars.
And also a very cold plunge in Las Vegas.
The coldest plunge, for sure.
So if you've ever felt like you don't fit into the typical female entrepreneur spaces, you've been told you are too intense or you need to slow down and find balance, this story is for you. So earlier this year, we were flying to Vegas. We were celebrating Tony's birthday weekend with my husband because they overlap by a couple days. And of course, we were both working in air. And so we're texting back and forth between each other.
Because that's what we do.
Flight to flight, on our way to a vacation, we're texting each other about business stuff. So I texted her and I said, "Are you using your big ass calendar again this year?"
And I had to admit that I wasn't going to because I actually didn't use it that last year. And I was like, convince me otherwise. Which, for context, we are both the kind of women who live and die by our goal-setting systems. But like a lot of type A women, when we get excited about the plan, then life happens. We'd both have been in this cycle before, right? Start strong, lose momentum, and feel like we're failing at something that we're actually pretty good at.
Yeah. So we both, as my husband would say, if it's worth investing, it's worth over-investing. So we both bought the calendars. I bought one for every member of my family, and we set about setting all of our goals. But there was that underlying, like, are we going to do it differently this time? Because life, right?
So here's what happens. We get to Vegas and we book a spa day. But somehow this spa day turned into Liz suggesting a cold plunge. First time for the both of us. And let me tell you, we were absolutely not prepared.
Not just not prepared, we were miserable.
Absolutely.
We got in that first time and we were out in like 30 seconds.
Maybe 30 seconds?
Maybe. It was not long. But then we went to the spa. We got in the sauna. We warmed up.
And we got back in. And this time, once we got past that initial shock, we actually started talking. And I had said something that I'd been thinking about for a while, and it was, I need more friends like you, Liz. Friends who are friends, but also push me professionally to accomplish more goals.
So that really hit me because how many women do you know who can talk business strategy at brunch and also call you out when you're making excuses? And we've been in mastermind groups together, multiple through the years. And I actually launched my Amazon business in a mastermind group that we were in together because of the accountability and the strategy and all the things that we talked about in that group. From there, I started my seller business, made a lot of progress, and then eventually ended up working logistics for you for a conference.
Yeah, full circle.
Full circle.
But here's what we really realized in that cold plunge is that most women's business groups are either all strategy and no soul or all support and no accountability. We needed both. We needed a space where we could be ambitious and still human. Because here's the truth. That whole work-life balance thing, it doesn't work for people like us. We've spent our careers in male-dominated industries navigating male-dominated spaces. We know how to be strategic. We definitely know how to get things done. But we're constantly told that we need to slow down or find balance or make more time for self-care. What does that even mean?
I found a lot of freedom recently, like digging into the fact that like I was giving myself like a lot of grief. Like, man, I really could use some hobbies. And then I realized like building side businesses is my actual hobby.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Sometimes building those things is your balance. Sometimes things like that actually energize you. And it might look like work to others, but it's actually great for you. Like I took a solo trip to Europe this year. That was my big ass calendar goal that I'm actually following. 3 countries completely solo. People asked if I was taking a break from work.
But you weren't taking a break from anything. You were stepping into something that mattered to you.
Exactly. And balance for type A women isn't always about doing less. It's about doing what aligns.
So from that conversation, we started talking about what a mastermind for women like us would actually look like. And it evolved from that and wanting to start a mastermind into something much bigger, into a community for the type A female founder who are really done pretending that they need to be softer to be successful or fit in with a community.
We developed our goal-setting framework, the 90-day system that actually works with how our brains operate. We created the app to track it. And we identified 3 types of high-achieving women and why traditional productivity advice often fails them.
So the overplanner, the avoider, the hustler. And if you want to know which one you are, we have a quick quiz for you. We'll link it below.
But more than anything, we built a space that we couldn't find ourselves, where we don't have to explain why we care so much about these things or why we work so hard, why our brains don't turn off at night, because everybody in this room already gets it. So if you're tired of being told that you're too much,
and if you're done with business advice that feels like it's really for someone else,
or if you want a community that celebrates your intensity instead of trying to get you to tone it down,
we're launching the Type A Circle as a beta community. Founding members get in at a deeply discounted price and only a certain number.
And here's the thing, this is not another networking group. It's not a mastermind where you talk about your feelings for an hour.
It's weekly office hours and real accountability and a space where you can be brilliant and driven and still belong.
Because the best version of you isn't the balanced version.
It's the aligned version.
Link in the description. We would love to see you there.
I'm really excited about everybody who's going to join us. I feel like everybody who steps into this, it's just like, we found you.
Yes.
You're our people.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Your people are here.
We found you. You found us.
Have you ever stared at your to-do list for so long that it starts to blur? And somehow, even though the clock keeps ticking, nothing got done.
You weren't being lazy. You weren't even resting. You were just stuck, frozen between knowing what needs to happen and not being able to make yourself do it.
That's the paradox of being a high-achieving woman with avoider tendencies. On the outside, it looks like procrastination. On the inside, it's a war between ambition and your overwhelm.
Maybe you feel like you're always behind, like you've already failed before you've even started. So why even start at all?
But here's the truth. Avoidance is a coping mechanism. And once we understand what's driving it, we can finally stop beating ourselves up and start making real progress. Let's be real. Avoiders are not lazy. They're not unmotivated. They're not broken. In fact,
they're usually brilliant, intuitive, big dreamers with a lot going on inside their head.
But what they struggle with is momentum. They feel overwhelmed before they even start. So they push things off, telling themselves, I'll do it later, or I'll do more when I'm ready.
Spoiler alert that the magic window of readiness rarely shows up.
Because the real issue isn't time or motivation, it's fear. Fear of failing, fear of being seen, fear of doing it wrong.
So the brain protects the only way it knows how, by avoiding the task completely. You scroll, you clean, you rewrite your grocery list.
Oh boy, do I clean. And then it makes you feel guilty, like you're the problem. Like you're not cut out for this big thing that you said you would do.
So let's pause here, because this is where most productivity advice gets it wrong. It says just start or use a timer.
Oh, they use a timer.
Use a timer, a little egg timer.
Yes. And I mean, those things can help, but for avoiders, it's so much deeper than that. Tactics won't work if the emotion behind that task is unresolved.
Exactly. You're not avoiding the task. You're avoiding the feeling attached to it.
And maybe it's the fear of getting it wrong. Or maybe this task reminds you of another time that you failed. Either way, the story in your head is far stronger than that checklist.
So we need to change the story, not just the strategy.
Okay, so let's talk about what actually works.
Lower the barrier to entry. Avoiders need momentum, not perfection. So if the task feels huge, break it into 5-minute starter steps.
Now this is a timer trick for you guys, but it's different. So one of my favorite tricks is I set a 7-minute timer, but 90% of the time I keep going.
The next thing to do is name the fear. Literally say it out loud. I'm avoiding this because, and let it be messy. You'll be surprised by how much power it loses once it's out of your head.
And I will tell you, one of the biggest fears is people avoid it because they feel like no one will buy it.
Oof, that's so true.
So what you need to do is create containers. Avoiders need boundaries, not more freedom. That's why things like weekly check-ins, accountability calls, or simply 3-item to-do lists are game changers.
One of our circle members said this exact thing changed everything for her. She didn't need a coach. She needed a container, a safe space to stay on track.
And here's the cool thing. Once an avoider starts taking consistent small action, it snowballs. That's the secret sauce.
So we want to leave you with this. Being an avoider doesn't mean you're not a real type A. It just means that your drive is being buried under too much pressure.
You want big things, you care deeply, and you are 100% capable of following through.
But you don't need to go it alone.
If you want to figure out your own productivity blocks and get unstuck fast, take the free Type A quiz. It'll tell you if you're an avoider, overplanner, or a hustler, and what to do next.
The links are down in the description, and if you're already an avoider,
you're in the right place. We'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Unless you are avoiding that too. Let me guess. You're the go-to person, the one who gets it done. Your calendar's packed, your inbox is full, and your brain is literally always running. You're the woman who can juggle a launch, a carpool, and a 90-slide pitch deck all before noon.
People call you driven, organized, ambitious. But underneath it all, you're tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind that sits in your bones. That whispers, you have to keep going. Even when you want to stop. If you're nodding, this is for you. Because you might be what we like to call the hustler. And trust me, I get it because I am one.
So here's the truth. Most people don't talk about. Hustlers aren't just ambitious. They're driven by urgency. There's a fire in your belly that says, I have to do it all and I have to do it now. And that fire is powerful. It built your business. It pushed you to hit goals other people only dream of.
But that same fire can also burn you out. Because as a hustler, your self-worth tends to get tangled up in your productivity. You measure your value by your output. You chase the next milestone before you've even celebrated the last one. That hurts.
Oh, it's so painful.
You are relentlessly productive until you're not. You crash.
Maybe your crash was quiet. Maybe you woke up the next day and felt a little bit numb, not excited, not motivated, just done. Or maybe it was loud. Maybe your body gave up. Your creativity dried up. Your goals stopped lighting you up. And you told yourself you just needed to push harder, try more, and hustle again.
But the truth is, hustling harder isn't the answer. Hustlers never run out of ideas. They run out of alignment. You weren't just tired, you were tired of carrying everything. Without pause, without a plan, without anyone checking in.
Man, the mental load is really, like that's what gets you, right? But here's what nobody tells high achievers. You can't hustle your way out of misalignment. You can't build a sustainable business on adrenaline and checklists alone. The real problem isn't your work ethic. It's that your goals are running you instead of you running them. You say yes to everything, you sprint through your to-do lists, but you rarely stop to ask, is this still what I want?
And if everything feels like a priority, you're not building a business. You're running a marathon blindfolded.
Terrifying. If you're not sure if this is you, here are some signs to look for. You feel more accomplished when you're busier than when you're happy. You check things off your list, but forget why you started them. You crash at the end of the day and still feel like you didn't do enough. You resist slowing down because it feels like weakness. Oh, so tough. And you secretly wonder if you've built something that looks successful but doesn't feel successful anymore.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So personal.
So here's the shift that changed everything for me. Hustling was never the problem. The problem was hustling without boundaries, without alignment, and without support. What hustlers need isn't to slow down. It's to get intentional. You don't need to stop being driven. You just need to redirect that drive towards things that fuel you. And that starts with a few simple changes.
So let's look at the 3 for 3 rule. Every Monday, write down the top 3 things you want to get done this week and the top 3 that you dread. Then ask, can I delegate, delay, or delete one of these dread tasks? This creates a space, not just for your calendar, but also mentally. Number 2, the midweek reset. Block 15 minutes in the middle of the week. No emails, no calls, just you and one question. Is what I'm doing today moving me toward what I actually want? No judgment, just clarity. It's like when you start learning how to meditate and they're like, observe your thoughts. No judgment. That's what we're doing here with our goals and what we're accomplishing with tasks. And number 3 is the permission slip. Write this on a sticky note. Rest is not a reward, it's a requirement. You cannot run your business or your life on fumes.
If this hits you in the gut, I want you to hear this. You're not broken. You're just a hustler who's finally tired of being in overdrive all the time. You don't need another productivity hack. You need a new perspective, one that honors your ambition and your humanity. That's why we created the Type A archetype. It's fast, it's free, and it helps you identify what's really blocking your goals based on how you are wired. There's no shame in how you work, but there's a better way to work with your wiring instead of against it.
So if you're the woman who always makes it happen, but lately you're wondering who's checking in on you, please hear us. Your ambition is a gift. Your drive is a superpower, but your energy is not infinite. You don't need to prove anything here. You just need a rhythm that supports the woman behind the goals. Start by learning how you operate and how to work with it.
You can take the free Type A quiz at typeamastermind.com and get the insight that finally puts your hustle in harmony. You deserve goals that feel good, not just look good. Let's build that life together.
You have the prettiest planner in the room, and yet somehow nothing's actually moving forward.
I used to think I had a productivity problem. Like I just needed better systems, a better planner, better template. I'd spend hours mapping out a 90-day plan, color coding it, breaking it into categories, getting out my markers and highlighters, making sure every box was checked even before I took the very first step. And honestly, I felt super productive. Like I looked like someone who had her life totally together, but deep down, I wasn't making any progress at all. I was stuck because I was confusing planning with doing, and I know I'm not alone. Overplanners are incredible at vision and structure, but they struggle to take messy, imperfect action. Because as long as you're planning, you're working. But that moment you actually move, that's when it gets scary, and that's when the real momentum and real risk kicks in.
Let's just say it. Planning is a safe space. It's the illusion of control. And for Type A women, control feels like comfort. But here's the hard truth. All the planning in the world won't fix a lack of execution. If your systems aren't helping you ship, speak up, scale, or sell, they're not systems. They're delay tactics dressed up as discipline. Overplanning is the intellectual version of busy work. And it's tricky because it feels like the responsible thing to do. It's not about throwing out your planner. It's about using it as a tool, not a crutch. Because when planning becomes the destination instead of the launch pad, You're just organizing stuckness.
So what actually works? One shift. Start before you think you're ready. You don't need a full 90-day plan to take that first step. In fact, most momentum builds after you start. You course correct as you go. Start with a 2-week sprint instead of a quarter-long plan. Keep the structure loose enough to pivot, but tight enough to stay on track. And then, most importantly, give yourself a deadline that's real, not flexible, not whenever it's perfect, real. Because overplanners love someday, but business moves on deadlines, especially self-imposed ones.
The best way to do that is to tell a friend, I'm
Yes,
launching, I'm
yes.
doing it this day.
Phone a friend.
Oh, that brings us to accountability. Planning in isolation leads to perfectionism. But when someone is checking in, you've shared that date. When you say it out loud, what you're going to do, it gets real. And you don't need more color coding. You need a consistent container where someone says, hey, you said you were going to publish that. Did you? And this is why structured masterminds or strategy check-ins matter. Not because you can't hold yourself accountable, but because, let's be honest, historically, you haven't. Your inner perfectionist will always give you another week to tweak. External systems help you break that loop.
And we get it. You love systems, and so do we. But systems should serve your action, not replace it. Planning is only powerful if it leads to movement. And if it doesn't, you've got to shift the habit. So here's the real question for you. Are you building a business, or are you just managing a very elaborate idea of one?
If that stings a little, you are in good company. It's the Overplanner trap. And once you see it, you can step out of it. Start small. One imperfect launch, one published page, one post that doesn't match the aesthetic. Movement over mastery. Done is better than perfect, and that is the unlock.
And if you're curious about what's actually keeping you stuck, we made a fast quiz to help Type A women figure out their default pattern. The Overplanner, the Avoider, or the Hustler. It takes 60 seconds, and you'll get a breakdown of how to move forward based on your productivity block. Take the quiz at typeamastermind.com. Stay consistent, stay accountable, stay ambitious with us.
And if your planner is full, but your progress is flat, you already know where this is going.
Do you know what nobody tells you when you're a perfectionist?
That done gets results and perfect is just a delay.
And let's be real for a minute. How many of your best ideas are sitting in a Google Doc graveyard right now because you didn't think they were quite ready?
Or you launched too late, or not at all.
Remind me to tell you about my bread course idea one time.
I need to tell you how many times I've sat on an idea for so long that somebody else launched it.
Yes, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Strategic mediocrity. The superpower that you probably didn't know you needed.
Okay, let's define it. Strategic mediocrity isn't about slacking or phoning it in. It's about being intentional with your effort.
It's about knowing when good enough is actually better than perfect. Because perfection is expensive. It costs you time, momentum, and sometimes the entire opportunity, like my failed bread course.
Perfectionism tricks you into thinking if it's not excellent, it's not worth doing. But business doesn't reward excellence. Business rewards action.
This isn't about lowering or dropping your standards. It's about being smart about them.
And there's a difference between strategic excellence and compulsive perfectionism. One grows your business and the other keeps you stuck.
This is where our Type A circle community comes in. We work with hustlers, avoiders, overplanners, all of them in different ways because they all wrestle with this.
Hustlers are constantly pushing forward and they burn out trying to make everything top tier.
Overplanners get paralyzed. They think if the plan isn't airtight, it's not even worth starting.
And avoiders? They use perfectionism as a defense mechanism. I'll start when I know exactly what to do.
And that's why they stall. The illusion of perfection keeps them from actually moving.
Strategic mediocrity says you're allowed to move forward with incomplete data. You're allowed to test things before you master them, and you're allowed to be messy on purpose.
Let's talk about ROI, because perfectionists hate wasting time. And you know what actually wastes time?
Obsessing over your homepage font instead of hitting publish.
Spending 3 weeks making a freebie look amazing instead of testing to see if people even want it, even for free.
You can iterate, you can edit, but you can't edit something that doesn't exist.
Some of our biggest results in business came from launches that, if we're being honest, were a little scrappy.
But they happened, and that's why they worked. Because we tested, we got feedback, and we adjusted.
Done lets you make those decisions, but perfect just keeps you in planning mode.
And perfectionism doesn't pay your mortgage.
Now let's be clear. There are places to bring your A game. Anesthesiology, accounting.
Your product? Yes. Your customer experience? Absolutely. Your brand values? Non-negotiable.
But the fourth revision of the blog post that nobody's going to read, your color palette update, your podcast episode that's 5 days late because it doesn't feel quite right.
That's where you apply strategic mediocrity. Good enough moves the needle. Great later when it matters.
Ask yourself, what's the opportunity cost of waiting? What am I not doing because I'm tweaking this one usually unimportant thing?
And is perfect even measurable? Or is it just your fear dressed up like productivity?
So how can you actually use this?
First, decide what your non-negotiables are. What are the 20% of things that drive 80% of the results?
Second, set a time limit. Don't let tasks expand just because you can keep working on them.
And third, get feedback early. Post the draft, launch the beta, ask your audience.
And finally, track results, not feelings. If good enough is working, resist the urge to over-polish.
I need a dashboard of metrics for my emotions about things. You're not lowering the bar, you're aiming it at the right target.
Here's the part no one tells you. You can spend your whole career building the perfect business
and never actually build a life.
Strategic mediocrity frees up your energy to focus on what matters: your family, your health, your joy.
Because at the end of the day, good enough gets you there. Perfect just delays the drive.
I need to tell you something that might make you feel uncomfortable. The entire work-life balance industry, it's not designed to help you succeed. It's designed to keep you manageable.
And if you're an ambitious woman who's ever felt guilty for wanting more, for working late, for caring deeply about your goals, this message is specifically for you.
Because while you're busy trying to find your balance, your male counterparts are busy building their empires. Let us explain.
Here's what we are told as women. You need to find balance. You're working too much. You need to prioritize self-care. You can't have it all. Meanwhile, ambitious men are celebrated for their drive. They're focused and dedicated. When they work late, they're building something important.
But when we do it, we're out of balance. We need to slow down. We're not present enough for our families. And here's the insidious part. We start believing it. We start apologizing for our ambition.
We take smaller roles so we can manage both work and family. We turn down promotions because we're worried about what people will think. And listen, if you make those choices for a personal reason, that's okay. But we don't want to choose to be smaller because we are convinced that's what balance looks like.
But I'm here to tell you that work-life balance, as it's currently sold to women, is a trap.
So let me tell you a story that illustrates this. In 2014, I was recently divorced with 3 kids between the ages of 5 and 8. And I decided that this was the perfect time to launch a speaker agency. I had the time margin, I had the business plan, and I had the drive. But what I didn't have was the emotional and mental bandwidth to launch a startup while navigating single motherhood. And you know what everyone told me? You just need better work-life balance. You need to prioritize. You need to manage your time better. As if my problem was time management, as if I just wasn't organized enough, as if I needed to try harder to have it all. But here's the truth that no one wanted to say. Some seasons of life aren't startup seasons, and that doesn't make you a failure. So in 2017, I did something that felt like giving up to everyone around me. I took a W-2 job. I started as an executive admin, and people around me acted like I was settling, like I was taking the safe route, and like I was choosing balance over ambition. But here's what actually happened. In 6 years, I went from executive admin to chief of staff. I developed my skills. I had a steady paycheck while my kids were young. I wasn't constantly stressed about revenue and clients. And then when my kids were older and I remarried, I was in a different season of life. When I hit that spot, I launched a software company and sold it 2 years later. That's not giving up on ambition. That's seasonal balance that keeps you from being small as you grow.
See, the problem with work-life balance advice is it treats all seasons of life the same, and it treats all women the same. It assumes that what you need when you're 25 and single is exactly the same thing that you need when you're 35 with toddlers, or 45 with teenagers, or 55 and they're all out of the house. But that's not how life works. Sometimes you're a W-2 employee and sometimes you're a 1099 contractor. When you have little kids, you have different types of freedom than when your kids are teenagers. And that empty nest life, well, that's a completely different game. The advice to find balance ignores all of this complexity. And worse, it puts the burden entirely on us, as if the solution to systematic inequality is just better time management.
As if the problem isn't that women are expected to be the primary caregivers and the perfect employees and the community volunteers and the best entrepreneur of startup space and the household managers, as if we just need to try harder to fit it all in.
And let's talk about what this looks like in the workplace. How many times have you seen a woman share an idea in a meeting only to have it ignored, and then watch a man say the same thing 5 minutes later and have him praised for his insight? How many times have you watched a woman apologize for her success, downplay their achievements, or turn down opportunities because they're worried about appearing too ambitious?
So this isn't about balance. This is about a system that benefits when ambitious women stay small by chasing balance. When we're constantly questioning ourselves, constantly trying to tone it down, worried that we're doing too much.
So what's the solution? Stop trying to balance and start trying to align. Alignment means different things in different seasons. Sometimes building is your balance. Sometimes rest is your strategy. Sometimes saying no to everything else is how you say yes to what matters most.
For me, building projects is how I recharge. For Tony, traveling solo to 3 different countries was her big-ass calendar goal, not a break from work, but stepping into what mattered to her. This isn't about doing less. It's about doing what aligns with who you are and what season you're in. And it's about refusing to apologize for your ambition.
If this resonates with you, if you're tired of being told that you're too much, if you want to be around other women who understand that sometimes your balance looks like intensity, come join us at Type A Circle. It's our community for ambitious women who are done pretending that they need to be smaller to be acceptable.
We meet weekly. We support each other, goals without shame. And we celebrate the seasons when you go all in just as much as the seasons when you need to pull back. Because the best version of you isn't the balanced version. It's the aligned version.
Links in the description. We're looking for founding members who are willing to redefine what success looks like for ambitious women. Stop trying to choose balance and choose alignment.
Hey friend. This isn't a video about strategy hacks or scaling tips. Today is different. It's personal. Because here's something we don't talk about enough. It's shockingly easy to build a business that looks impressive. But building a life that actually feels meaningful, that's the real work.
We've done the launches. We've done the 6-figure months. We've even color-coded the planners, booked the photo shoots, and nailed the caption. And still, I know I found myself lying awake at 2 a.m. thinking, why doesn't this feel like enough?
If you're doing everything right and still feeling stuck, you're not alone. Let's talk about what it really takes to design a life you actually want, not just a business that looks good on Instagram.
If you're a high-achieving woman, a builder, a founder, a doer, you've probably been taught to measure success by output. How much you get done, how fast you hit your goals, how polished your business looks from the outside.
And here's the tricky part. That version of success works for a while, until it doesn't. You hit the goal and you feel nothing. You cross the last item off your list and you feel behind. You get the praise but somehow feel invisible. And that's not failure, that's feedback.
It's your body, your heart, your nervous system telling you you've built something that's really impressive, but it's not in alignment with who you are.
Here's what we've learned the hard way. You don't need another strategy. You need new definition of success. Instead of asking, what should I be doing? Ask, what kind of life do I actually want?
I want you to try something. What does freedom actually look like in your daily life, not just in your bank account? What parts of your day drain you, even if they look productive? If no one was watching, if you had nobody to impress, what would you choose?
Because the truth is, success without peace is just another form of pressure. If your life feels like a treadmill you built yourself, it's time to step off. You didn't start this journey just to impress the internet. You started because you wanted something more.
So, how do we shift? Here are 3 things that help me redesign my life without burning it all down. First, reclaim your morning, even just 5 minutes. I'm not talking about the 5 a.m. club or cold plunges, although I do like those. I'm just talking about one quiet moment before the texts start, before people are up in your house, before your brain kicks into that solve everything mode. Ask yourself, how am I feeling today? What do I need? What do I want to create? Even 5 minutes of that kind of presence can change the way you show up for your day.
Audit your calendar, and this one's a game changer. Look at your calendar for the next week and ask, does this reflect my actual values or just my obligations? If your schedule is filled with things that drain you, it's time to start saying no. No to meetings you don't need, no to tasks that don't move the needle, no to can I pick your brain sessions, no to expectations you never agreed to. Your time is not a to-do list, it's your life.
Number 3, set energy-based goals. Instead of asking, what do I want to achieve in the next 90 days? Ask, how do I want to feel? Do I want to feel calm, creative, energized, connected?
Once you know that, you can reverse engineer your projects, routines, and team around how you want to feel, not just what you want to produce.
Because how you build your life matters just as much as what you build. But let's be real for a minute. As type A women, we are amazing at doing. We thrive on progress, productivity, and performance. But life isn't just something to optimize, it's something to experience. You're allowed to build a business that's calm,
that fits inside a life that you love, that gives you room to breathe, to dream, to be, not just to do. You don't have to earn your peace, you're allowed to choose it.
And this is exactly what we work through in the Type A Circle community. It's our space for driven women who are done burning out. We meet weekly.
We share tips, we design systems, not just for progress, but for peace. You don't have to carry everything alone anymore.
You've already proven that you can build. You've done all the hustle, the all-nighters, the perfect color-coded plans. But now,
it's time to build something beautiful, a business that fits inside your life that you actually want. You're not here to impress, you're here to align. So let this be your invitation.
let's talk about that moment when success doesn't feel like success. You hit the milestone, the launch works, the numbers look great, but instead of celebrating, you're quietly wondering if maybe you just got lucky.
You've got proof that you earned it. Sales, testimonials, a solid team. But deep down, you're waiting for someone to figure out you don't belong here.
That voice, it's called imposter syndrome.
But here's the part most people miss. Sometimes that voice isn't completely wrong.
Sometimes it's actually not self-doubt. It's data. It's your intuition telling you something in your system actually needs attention.
So today we're breaking down how to tell the difference between fear that's lying and feedback that's leading.
First, let's define imposter syndrome properly. Psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes coined the term imposter phenomenon in 1978 after studying high-achieving women who, despite evidence of success, believed they were frauds.
And it's still incredibly common. A 2020 systematic review found prevalence rates anywhere from 9 to 82%, depending on the population studied, especially high among entrepreneurs and professionals, according to the Journal of General Internal Medicine.
But in non-medical terms, it's that chronic inability to internalize your success. You downplay the wins, overcredit luck, and fear being found out.
But it's important to note imposter feelings aren't always irrational. Sometimes they're your brain's way of highlighting real uncertainty or a missing system.
Neuroscience explains why this feels so real. When you step outside your comfort zone, your amygdala, the part of your brain that detects threat, it activates the same fear response you'd have if a bear suddenly walked into your office.
Except the bear is just a new project, a bigger audience, or a higher paying client.
Meanwhile, that prefrontal cortex, the logic center of your brain, gets temporarily hijacked by cortisol and adrenaline. Studies from both Harvard and MIT show that mild imposter feelings can actually improve performance by motivating preparation until stress passes a threshold and productivity collapses.
So the goal isn't to eliminate the feeling entirely. It's to know when it's motivating and when it's misleading.
Here's the diagnostic question. Is this fear factual or fictional? If the thought is, I'm missing a process for scaling this service, and you truly have no process, that's actually a fact. One attacks your identity, the other invites improvement.
Let's talk about how each type A archetype wrestles with this.
First, the hustler. She's always moving. When she finally stops, self-doubt hits like a whiplash. She mistakes speed for safety.
So when business slows or results plateau, she assumes she's failing, when she might just need rest or refinement.
The Overplanner tries to out-organize her insecurities. She builds 37 spreadsheets to prove that she's legitimate.
But over-preparation doesn't cure imposter syndrome. It feeds it. Because the more you plan, the more ways you find to believe you're not ready.
And finally, the avoider. She dodges those opportunities completely. She'll say, I'm not ready to apply for that mastermind, or I'll launch when I feel just a little more confident.
But confidence doesn't come first. Evidence does.
Each pattern is a different flavor of the same fear. If I try and fail, I'll confirm the worst beliefs I have about myself.
Okay, let's get practical. Here's how to test whether your doubt is imposter syndrome or a valid signal.
Step 1, evidence audit. Write down 3 objective results that prove your competence. Numbers, testimonials, outcomes. If the evidence is strong, but you still feel like a fraud, that's the imposter syndrome talking.
Step 2, gap identification. List what specifically feels uncertain. I don't have a follow-up system, or I'm not sure how to hire. If it's concrete and fixable, it's a valid concern. It's not a character flaw.
Step 3, action assignment. For imposter thoughts, counter with proof and movement. Send the pitch, post the video. For valid gaps, schedule learning, book a training, hire a coach, create that SOP.
Movement rewires the brain faster than mantras ever will.
When you mislabel fear as fact, you're self-sabotaging. You underprice, over-deliver, or decline opportunities that you're very qualified for.
When you mislabel fact as fear, you spiritualize inaction. It's just imposter syndrome. instead of fixing what's broken.
Both paths lead to burnout and stagnation. One drains your energy, the other drains your credibility.
And women, especially type A women, walk that line constantly because we're socialized to earn our worth through achievement.
But worth isn't a KPI. Results are.
Here's the reframe that changed everything for me. Feeling like an imposter means you're expanding the definition of who you are.
Right, and growth always creates a gap between your current identity and your future capacity. The gap sometimes feels like fraud.
So instead of saying, who am I to do this, say, I'm becoming the person who does this.
Research on self-efficacy shows that mastery experiences, or small wins, are the fastest way to rebuild that confidence.
So stack wins, track them, and when your brain says you don't belong here, hand it the receipts.
And remember, confidence isn't built from compliments, it's built from competence applied consistently.
Imposter feelings need emotional regulation. Valid concerns need operational fixes.
So pair mindset work with measurable systems. Therapy or journaling plus dashboards or SOPs. Breathing techniques plus better onboarding.
Because self-trust grows when your environment supports your success.
You can't affirm your way out of chaos. You have to organize your way out of it.
So here's your challenge this week. When doubt creeps in, ask, is this about me or about a missing process?
If it is about you, collect proof. If it's about process, create one.
And if you want to know which type A pattern fuels your imposter cycle, whether you're the hustler who overworks, the overplanner who overthinks, or the avoider who hides,
take the Type A quiz. It'll show you how your wiring impacts your confidence and your execution.
Because imposter syndrome isn't the problem.
Believing it without investigating, that's the problem.